airlines in Iran have seen a series of horrific plane crashes over the past year. Hundreds of people have lost their lives in these incidents, adding to a long list of aviation-related casualties that have mounted over the years for various reasons. Some of these accidents were caused by human error, as was the case on the 24th of July 2009. On this day, 17 people were killed in a flight between Tehran and Mashhad when the pilot lost control while landing. But technical failures are also to blame for plane crashes in Iran. On the 15th of July 2009, all 168 people on board a flight from Tehran to Yerevan were killed when their aircraft plunged into the desert after experiencing malfunctions. Iran's domestic airlines are having to rely on an aging fleet of planes.
من به نظرم که یه مقداری نوع تبلیغات این زمینه به نظر من روش خیلی مثلا غلاف شده در رابطه با اینکه حالا سوانح دادیم. حالا چرا ما یکی دو تا سانحه داشتیم که پشت سر هم اتفاق افتاد و علت سانحه اولیش هم که اعلام کردیم که چیز بود، عامل انسانی بود که این اتفاق افتاد. خب طبیعیه که از این اتفاقات برای همه جا جهان ممکنه این اتفاق بیفته و شما هم اخبارش میشنوید. اینه که من اینو خیلی برام قابل قبول نیست که ما سوانحمون خیلی زیاده.
Some of them have practically disappeared from the international aviation arena, but Iran is forced to keep them on for lack of other options. The reason for this is not financial but political. US sanctions on Iran prevent it from providing its citizens with the latest aviation technology, and even spare parts for its aging fleet are difficult to obtain. Iranian technicians also believe that Iran's aviation industry has management problems. CEOs are changed at a record rate, throwing the organization into upheaval on a regular basis. In this segment we will be discussing Iran's civil aviation, the challenges it faces, and its achievements in defying the odds. Iran's commercial aviation began in 1927 when a limited number of air services were introduced into Iran. The German aviation company Junkers set up an airline in Iran with the support of its government. Junkers was then given parliamentary approval to fly within Iran for commercial purposes. This step was in fact the cornerstone of commercial air transportation in the country. Iranian Airways, a scheduled airliner, was founded in 1944 by a group of Iranian investors. Operations covered domestic and regional passenger and freight services, plus a weekly freight service to Europe. The privately owned airline Persian Air Services was established in 1954. PAS initiated flights to several European destinations in the 1960s before merging with Iranian Airways to become Iran Air. The airline started buying variants of the Boeing to make up its fleet, and by the mid-1970s was serving cities in Europe with non-stop and one-stop flights. In the year 1970, Iran was rated second in the world for aviation safety. Then in 1972, Iran placed an order for 2 Concorde supersonic jets from Britain, but these orders were cancelled in 1980 in the wake of the Islamic Revolution. Since then, Iran's civil aviation has gone through various changes. Some have been voluntary and others imposed. Upgrades and expansions have been muted by sanctions, and Iran itself has limited its destinations due to the international hostility towards the Islamic Republic. And there are domestic issues that have to be addressed.
کشور ما کشور بزرگیه از نظر وسعت. در نتیجه مردم برای رسیدن به مناطق دور به فرض تهران، چابهار، شاید اگر یه نفر بخواد بره 2 تا 3 روز تو راه باشه، ولی با هواپیما میتونه با 2 ساعت پرواز به راحتی به چابهار برسه یا به شهرهای دیگه.
Safety is a number one priority in the aviation industry. Delays and cancellations are frequent in Iran, and safety concerns are the reason why. Domestic flights are a favorite transport option in a country as vast as Iran, but unreliable flights mean dissatisfied customers, which is bad for business. Officials are stuck between a rock and a hard place, with flight demands going up every day on one hand and pressing safety issues hampering progress on the other.
ایمنی هزینه بردار، یا باید دولت این هزینه رو بپردازه یا باید مسافرین بپردازن و افزایش ارتقای ایمنی با نگاه درست و باور درست نسبت به این بخش محقق میشه. این توانایی تو ما وجود داره. یعنی الانم من فکر میکنم این که امیدوار هستم با حالا اطلاعاتی که دارم از حمایتایی که میشه انشالله ما به یه سطح خیلی عالی از به اصطلاح ایمنی برسیم. ما نگاهمون اکتفای به حداقل های ایمنی نیست، به افزایش ایمنی هم حد و مرزی نداره. هر چی شما براش هزینه بکنی این ارتقای ایمنی ها شاهد خواهد بود.
I haven't noticed any particular solution being offered by authorities for a reform of the system whereby the standards of safety could be raised significantly to put it on par with the international best, like it used to be, whereas about 33 years ago, Iran Air used to have the second best safety record in the world. And now, unfortunately, it doesn't have that ranking anymore, although there isn't any inherent reasons why it should suffer higher rates of incidents or inadequate maintenance of safety records.
Every airliner undergoes safety checks before every flight, be they government-owned or private. There's pressure on maintenance to make sure the plane is safe to fly, but sometimes little malfunctions are swept under the rug to minimize cancellations and delays. So a crash that is later blamed on technical failures could, on many occasions, have been prevented if regulations were followed to the letter.
I know for a fact that even in the UK, the chief engineers are pressurized to sign off an aeroplane even if they are not completely satisfied with it because of the commercial pressures on the airlines. But, so does such a pressure happen in Iran? We don't know. Yeah. And are the maintenance engineers as well trained as they could be? We don't know. Do they have all the equipment they need for checking and approving and repairing the aeroplanes? We don't know. If they do, why are there so many crashes?
On a more positive note, Iran has had major achievements in the maintenance of its airliners. Before Iran's Islamic Revolution in 1979, foreign maintenance experts had complete control over its aviation safety. But after the revolution and the beginning of the Iran-Iraq war, US sanctions forced many of these experts to leave the country. To fill the void, Iranian experts that had some experience in maintenance had to be trained to take their place.
به خاطر اینکه ما بیشتر بنیه هواپیما ما غربی بود اینا مهندسین زمینی ما سعی کردن که بتونن تو بخش تعمیر نگهداری یه قدم‌های مؤثری رو بردارن. با نگاه خود اتکایی تونستن هواپیمای پهن پیکرمون ایرباس 747 از تعمیرات به ابتدایی ترین تعمیراتش تا اوورهال این هواپیما تا تعمیرات اساسی این هواپیما رو در داخل انجام بدن، به گونه‌ای که در 6 سال گذشته در چند سال گذشته ما هیچ هواپیمای پهن پیکری برای تعمیرات اساسی به خارج از کشور اعزام نکردیم و این هم در بخش خصوصیمون این توانایی ها به دست اومده و هم در بخش دولتمون به دست اومده.
The situation forced Iranian technicians to train themselves to a great extent by studying the various parts at their disposal, and their efforts did pay off. Iranian maintenance experts managed to achieve safety standards that have been approved by European countries that have given Iranian planes permission to use their airspace.
Before the revolution in 1979, there were a lot of foreigners who were managing the servicing of the aircraft. But now it is all done by Iranian experts. And overall they have managed to keep the aircraft or an aging fleet of aircraft flying and airworthy and acceptable to international standards. Even the latest declaration by the European Commission, which restricts aircraft, Iran Air flights into Europe, really don't include the Boeings and the Airbuses that Iran Air operates, which indicates that they have confidence in the maintenance of these aircraft by Iranian experts.
Iran has tried to overcome the obstacles by investing in the manufacturing of its own airliners. Iran today went to meet the people at the Dorna Aircraft Company, a private corporation that is successfully manufacturing planes that are designed by Iranian experts and use domestic parts only. We spoke to Dorna CEO Yaqub Entisari.
All of the idea and all of the things we are going to do, we have done since now, is based on our own thinking and our own design. But in order to do that, you have to use the existing technology, existing knowledge, and existing experience. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you have to start from Wright brothers. Therefore, in order to do that, we use all the existing knowledge and technology and things is going on around the world, from the book, from the newspaper, from the internet, and so on. So.
The most important feature of Dorna planes is the fact that they are domestically manufactured. So as a purely Iranian product, we wanted to know what safety standards the company boasts.
You are not allowed even to make one mistake, because the first mistake, you cannot park the aircraft in the air. You have to bring it down safe. Therefore, this is educate us, and this is will tell us and teach us how to do this right.
Aircraft manufacturing in Iran has a history of several decades. Iran's first aviation company was founded in 1935, but this company was soon closed down by Western countries.
نیروی هوایی ایران توسعه پیدا کرد تا سال 1314 که اولین کارخانه هواپیماسازی به نام شهرباز در دوشان تپه ساخته شد و شروع کردن هواپیماهای رو در ایران مونتاژ کردن تا زمان جنگ جهانی دوم که نیروی هوایی ایران به هواپیمای هاریکن که یک هواپیمای دو موتور بمب افکن انگلیسی بود مجهز شد. اما در جنگ جهانی دوم روزی که متفقین وارد ایران شدن دیدن ما در صنعت هواپیمایی نسبتاً نقش بهتر از کشورهای دیگه در منطقه داشتیم. یعنی شاید ما به دلیل وسعت کشورمون و توانمندی‌هایی که در کشورمون بود این نیروها تربیت شده بودن و اونجا متفقین تصمیم میگیرن که ایران رو اجازه ندن رشد فنی داشته باشه.
US sanctions have been extremely detrimental to every aspect of Iran's aviation industry. But from a humanitarian standpoint, even by US human rights standards, these sanctions can be considered a criminal act that endanger civilian lives in Iran. The sanctions mean that any aircraft that has 10% US-made parts cannot be sold to Iran. As a result, Iran cannot even buy planes from the European Union.
I'll give you an example that under the presidency of Mr. Khatami, Iran did place an order for a number of latest Airbuses, Airbus A330 and A340. And Airbus was very grateful for the order, and Iran was very happy to place these orders and was looking forward to delivering them. And unfortunately, the US government raised objections to that because more than 10% of the contents were of US origin. So they scuppered the deal. And so Iran was left with a rather aging fleet. Although because Iran Air does not utilize its aircraft to the same degree and with the same intensity as the best Western airlines do, so the aircraft, although they are older, they don't have as many hours as their Western counterparts would have. So you can say that there is more life left in them than meets the eye at first.
The sanctions forced Iran to change its main supplier of aircraft parts from the US to Russia. Iran bought the Russian-made Tupolev to make up its fleet and satisfy its domestic flights demand. But something was wrong. Most of Iran's crashes happened to Tupolev planes. The first conclusion was that the planes had technical glitches, but many experts refute this.
ولی هواپیمای روسی هواپیمای بدی نیستن. اون هواپیما هم دقیقاً نمونه‌های همون هواپیمای بوئینگ هستن یا ایرباس یا غیره. الان شما هواپیمای توپولوف 204 رو که نگاه میکنید دقیقاً شبیه یک هواپیمای ایرباسه، از نظر توانایی، از نظر امکانات، از نظر امکانات عملیاتی، مانوری، همه امکاناتی رو در وضعیت مطلوب داره.
The other theory was that human error had caused the crashes, and the fact that most of them involved Tupolev planes was just coincidental.
Over 1,000 or about 1,000 of Tupolev 154s were made in the Soviet Union, and they have a reasonable safety record. But of all the billions of passenger miles that they have flown, a small fraction of that has been in Iran. Yet we see that if we analyze the casualties of the Tupolev 154, about 1/6 of all mortalities have occurred in Iran, although perhaps not even 1,000th or far less than that even of the passenger miles have been flown in Iran.
Mr. Entisari, who is also the deputy chairman of Iran's Airspace Society, says the glitches are not in the planes, but in the management of Iran's aviation industry.
If you look at the civil aviation, within 31 years after revolution, about 20 head of the civil aviation has been changed. Some of them in 3 months, some of them in 6 months, some of them in 2 years. We had only one person, engineer Shah Cheraghi, who has died, and he was in this field for 5 years, and he changed a lot of things because he had the time. Now, these are the problem we have.
As long as the management of the air safety of the overall civil aviation of the country is not reformed and improved, I frankly don't think that renewing the whole fleet with the Boeing or Airbus would in the long term solve the safety issue.
We asked the spokesperson of Iran's civil aviation organization about the frequent change of CEO in the industry, but he refused to comment.
ببینید چون این تصمیماتی نیست که من توش دخالتی داشته باشم، نظری تو این زمینه من ندارم.
برای یک سازمان هواپیمایی که خودش ناظر بر عملکرد شرکت‌های هواپیمایی و قابلیت‌های عملیاتی و پروازی و نظارت بر بخش‌های مهندسی و آموزشی این کشور رو داره، این یک کار زیاد پسندیده نیست.
In early March, Iran's Roads and Transportation Minister said Iran had decided to expel Russian pilots within 2 months. Mr. Behbahani said that Iran has its own pilots and does not need foreign personnel. The decision came shortly after the 2009 accident that left 17 people dead. The pilot of the plane was Russian and the cause of the accident was found to be human error.
Whether the incidents were due to mechanical failure or human error, they would still come under the umbrella of management of air safety in the country. And that comes ultimately under the auspices of the Civil Aviation Organization of Iran. And unfortunately, I haven't heard anything from them to reassure me, to reassure the public that they are taking steps to improve their management system.
A while later, the Russian Foreign Ministry rejected the claims, saying Russian airlines had received no indication from Iran that their pilots would be asked to leave the country.
تاکید کرده بودند که ما تو طرح توسعه ناوگانمون یه توصیه به شرکت‌های هواپیمایی سازمان هواپیمایی کشوری داشته باشه، مبنی بر اینکه ما از نیروهای خلبان‌های داخلمون بیشتر اون خلبانمون رو به کار بگیریم و بتونیم پاسخگوی مراکز آموزشمون بیشتر باشیم که خلبان آموزش دادن و نیروهای متخصص به اصطلاح چیز کردن، تربیت کردن، ما اونها رو به کار بگیریم.
The US says it supports the Iranian people and its sanctions are aimed at pressuring the Iranian government, not the public. This, however, does not correspond with its actions. The sanctions on Iran are directly affecting Iranian citizens. Despite this, Iran says it is minimizing the threat of US pressure by pursuing a policy that encourages Iran's self-sufficiency on every level. This also incorporates Iran's aviation industry, which is working towards the domestic manufacturing of planes and parts with the goal of increasing safety and reliability by utilizing domestic capacities and expertise.